guys, welcome back to the channel. So today we're going to do kind of a comparison between two really popular Seikos out there. You guys, if you've been following me for a while, you know that I am a diehard Seiko fanboy. You know, I own a lot of really nice watches. I'm very fortunate. Like today I'm even wearing my PAM 287 that I love. But you guys all know that Seiko has my heart, and for as long as I live, there's always going to be a Seiko in my collection. And you guys know how much of a romance I've had with my Seiko Monster. So I know a lot of people though out there, the Monster is very much a love it or hate it kind of watch. A lot of you guys prefer more traditional style dive watches. So I kind of wanted to compare two really popular models you might consider within the Seiko range. The Monster being one of them, but also the Seiko Sumo, which also has a very devoted following and quite a bit of romance behind it too. So let's go ahead, just take a look at these two pieces, and I'll just kind of talk through some of the key features of them and kind of give you a sense of how they're similar and how they're different. So with all that said, guys, let's go ahead and we'll jump into the video. Alright guys, let's go ahead and get started. Now, this isn't going to be a comparison exactly between these two particular versions of these models. This is going to be more of like a comparison between these model lines, because the Monster's gone through multiple iterations, as has the Sumo, and depending on your model and when you bought it, it may have a different movement or slightly different features. But in general, the Sumo and the Monster line have very distinct characteristics regardless of the year or the movement you have that are very intrinsic to that model. So, for example here, I may have a second generation Monster with the 4R36 movement in it, but you guys now can go buy a current one of these with a 6R based movement, which is the movement that's actually in the Sumo. So if I was just going to compare the two of them here, I mean, the Sumo would win on movements because it's a 6R15 versus a 4R36. But that is something that, again, depending on what generation of Monster you have, may or may not be a difference for you. So it's going to be more of just, these watches just have very different personalities, and understanding those different personality traits, which regardless of what you get is going to give you a very different experience. So let's go ahead and start with the Sumo, because the Sumo I think is very much a traditional dive watch for Seiko. And if you guys are familiar with like the Omega Seamaster line, I think there's actually quite a bit of similarity in these. And I know recently on the channel I also reviewed that new Planet Ocean from Omega, and I have to say it was actually really funny. When I got back after shooting that piece, I went and actually picked up this Seiko Sumo out of just one of my drawers and wore it, and I was surprised at how similar it actually felt to me in regards to it versus that Omega Planet Ocean. Now, what you're going to get with the Sumo is you're going to get a large case. This case is about 44 millimeter, 45 millimeter, depending how you want to measure it. So it's a pretty chunky watch. And it's got a lot of these contoured curves to it. It's got a lot of really nice detail. So you'll see, I mean, there's all these little things that they do. So the case actually has like multiple layers. And so like they have this beautiful high polish. There's this little belt line right here that's a brush, and then it goes back to a high polish. And then on top of the lugs, you've got this brushed finish. And then inside the lugs, you got another high polish finish. This is a watch where literally every time you look at it, you notice some other little details they've added to it. I mean, I've never seen a watch with so much different, with so many different surfaces going on. Again, high polished, brushed, high polished, brushed, high polished, and then it's crazy the amount of just detail they put into it. And it's the little things too on Seiko that I really enjoy. So I mean, you just look at the way the bezel interacts with the case. Here it's fully exposed, and then it almost kind of has like this cradle-like experience going on here, where it almost kind of nuzzles the case a bit, or nuzzles the case a little bit, and then it's exposed again on top. There's just all these little details that are just kind of very cool. But even so, it still has very much a traditional kind of design to it. So it's got some really cool detail, but it's nothing crazy that's going to really turn a lot of people off. This is a watch that I think 9 out of 10 people you show it to would be comfortable wearing it and would be really happy with the design of it. Very traditional style bezel, as with all Seikos. It just has a very utilitarian kind of chunky feel to it. Crown down here at 4 o'clock. The crown has this lovely like kind of knurling. It's got really good grip. You have the great little S on there on the crown, which is something all of the GDM Seikos have, and it is of course screw down for a dive watch. This is good to 200 meters. Let me go ahead and unscrew it. First position is winding. Second position changes the date. and third position is hacking. Now, as I said, comparing these two movements today, it's not really a fair comparison, because this guy now is running the in-house 6R movement, and the Monster, which I'll get to in a minute, is running the 4R. The 6R is an enhanced version of the 4R. So both of these are going to be hacking and hand winding movements. Both of them are going to be right around 21,000 beats per hour. However, this guy is going to give you a 50-hour power reserve and is going to have slightly better accuracy out of the box. But as 6Rs go, I mean, it's a nice movement, but it's nothing super special. And as far as a Swiss equivalency, for $400 or $500, if you're going to go out and buy, say, like an ETA-based 28-24 caliber, I wouldn't put this in-house caliber from Seiko at the same level as an ETA 28-24 in my honest opinion. It's a good movement. I actually had issues with one of these movements before in my Sarb 35, which I loved, and had some issues with it. So we'll see how this guy holds up, but it does the job well. It's based on 7S origins, and the 7S is a tried and true workhorse in Seiko world, and the 4R in this too is also all part of the same movement family. But again, with the Sumo, you're getting very much a standard dive watch. So you've got these beautiful kind of what you call in Rolex terms like a maxi dial going on. Great luminescence, and you got these nice broad hands here. And if you guys are familiar with the Seiko Shogun, it has the same handset on it as the Seiko Shogun. Now you can see here I'm getting all sorts of reflection. It uses Seiko's Hardlex crystal, which is mineral. This thing actually has some minor scratches on it. I've already kind of got it nicked up a bit. It'd be nice if it had sapphire, but being a traditional dive watch, it is a nice rotating bezel, and it does rotate pretty precisely. There's no play in it, 120 clicks. One of the caveats though with this style bezel is because it nuzzles the case here, you only have 2 grip points. You can grab it at 12 o'clock or you can grab it at 6 o'clock. There's no way to really grab it on the sides. You really have to grab it at top. So some of you guys may find that a little bit annoying, the way that they've set that up. But I mean, personally for me, I don't mind it at all, but just something to point out. But yeah, I mean, you've got this great, nicely legible dial. You just have a date aperture over here. There's no day of the week, which the Monster has, and I'll show you in a sec. You have the nice little Prospects logo down here. Newer versions of the Monster, which I'll show you in a sec, also have that. But this is, again, a 200-meter dive watch. What you're getting with the Sumo is you're getting these very traditional looks. You're getting a really good size case. You're getting an okay bracelet, nothing to write home about. These are, push pin links, and as you'll see in a sec, it has the same clasp on it as the Monster does. The dual deployant, it's a stamped fold over, and like the Monster, which I'll show you in a sec, let me get it here. There's a diver's extension to put over a wetsuit. Case back on this guy is very pretty. You have the tsunami wave there, and yeah, the case back is very well done. I love, again, there's so many contrasting finishes on this. Have the high polish in the middle, and then you've got the brush going around it. Then you got high polish again. I think this watch has a lot of little cool things going you don't really catch at first glance. For something that's so traditionally styled, there's a lot of little details on this that I think the more time you spend with it, the more you enjoy it. If there's one thing about this watch that I think really lets it down, is this bracelet. I don't like this bracelet at all. It's cheap, but I guess they have to save money somewhere. But you take this watch, if you like to look at this, you put it on a nice strap. Maybe it's a rubber, you put it on a NATO, or maybe I put it on like a sailcloth strap, and I think instantly the watch goes up that many levels. It's just, without this bracelet on it, I think this watch just goes to another level. And yeah, I mean, this is something that I think a lot of people would enjoy, and I would definitely recommend it. If you're looking for a traditional style dive watch, it's practical. It's got a lot of really nice little finishes going on it. It has the newer in-house 6R15 movement in it, and bracelet aside, you know what? This is a great watch for a lot of people. Now, I would not say the same thing about the Monster. The Monster is very much not a traditional looking watch. It is very much a Seiko exclusive design. I've talked about this on the review of this watch and other reviews I've included it in. This is very much a love it or hate it watch, and I'm very much in the group that absolutely loves the Monster line. I'm obsessed with brutalist architecture, and I think there's a lot of kind of nods to brutalism, but this is definitely not your traditional dive watch. I mean, you just even look dial for dial here. We have traditional dots here. Here you almost have like these shark teeth kind of going on the dial. I mean, the bezel, everything about it. I mean, you have very traditional and you have very abstract brutalist. And yeah, I mean, a lot of people that I know that know me that see this watch think this thing is absolutely hideous. But It is awesome. So, you know, like the Sumo, it also has kind of a similar deal where part of the bezel is actually hidden. So on the Sumo, you had the grip points at 12 and 6. On the Monster, it's actually opposite. So 9 and 3 is actually where you can grab the bezel easier. At 12 o'clock and 6 o'clock, the bezel is actually kind of buried a little bit. So you have the same kind of a thing where part of the bezel is actually recessed in the case, which is something I just think is kind of a cool detail that you don't see very often. And it's obviously not done that way for practicality, but as a design aesthetic, I love kind of this little cradle aesthetic. And they also scalloped out where the bezel meets the case too, and it actually makes it very easy to grip this bezel. And like the Sumo, 120 clicks, not a lot of play in it, turns with precision. I love turning this thing. But again, just a very different look. This is not a traditional looking bezel, and this will never be mistaken for a replica Rolex Submariner. I mean, this watch very much has its own distinct personality. Like the Sumo, crown is again at 4 o'clock. Because again, these are using, depending on the generation, they could be using the same movement or variables of, or variations of. So this one has a 4R36 in it, but you could easily get a 6R on the newer ones. Now, unlike the Sumo though, with the Monsters, you're actually getting a day of the week. So it's showing Friday here. You know, again, just for comparison on the Sumo, you're just going to get the date. So, you know, I know it's a love-hate it for a lot of you guys. I like having the date here and the day of the week. So for me, I actually prefer this aesthetic, but I know a lot of you guys out there just think this looks much cleaner without the day of the week on it. So to each their own. But again, I mean, you can just tell that these things are very different takes on a traditional dive watch. But they're both good at 200 meters. They both are, again, automatics, and they're both going to have the same family architecture on them, just depending on what year you get and what version you have in it. But again, it's the shape of the case on the Monster is very bespoke. The shape of the markers, that shark teeth, is very bespoke. Even the crown, I love the look of this crown. So I can get this to focus here. The knurling on it too, it just, I don't know, it feels like it's just something really cool about it. I've never seen another crown quite like this. And it feels very much like a professional diving instrument. And again, since it uses the same architecture as the Sumo, same features, it's a screw down, hand winding, day of the week changes, you know, day of the month, same features, and then third position's hacking. But again, you're really buying a Monster versus a Sumo based on aesthetics. The other thing too that I love about the Monster is this bracelet. This is my favorite bracelet on any watch that I can really think of. It's got kind of these little cool details. I mean, so if you look at it at first glance, it just looks like a generic brushed bracelet, but there's these little parts of the links that are actually high polish, and even the top part too. And it just, you know, it almost looks like a shadow effect, but if you catch it right, it's just, I really like the way that these polished and these brush surfaces play together. I think it kind of leads to a very cool aesthetic. And again, the case too, there's this kind of hidden polish section here, and then you have a lot of this brushed. And again, here too, it's brushed, and there's these little hidden wells that are polished. You know, Seiko is just really good at the way that they kind of play with brushed versus high polished surfaces. I mean, there's just, I don't know, they seem to do such a great job of balancing the two aesthetics out. And again, you go from a brush to a high polish on the sides. The fluidity of this bracelet too, it just feels right. Same clasp as the Sumo, twin trigger, fold over, diver's extension. And then, unlike the Sumo, this case back is all polished, all high polished. And so there again, of course, is the Tsunami Wave. So, I mean, these two are very different takes on a traditional dive watch. In terms of function and form, they're very different, but function, they're the same. Again, they're both 200 meters. They use very similar, I mean, they're the same clasp and, you know, push pin links, and capability wise, they're basically the same. And movement for movement, if you get them lined up with the same movements, functionally they're exactly the same, but personality wise, they could not be more different from each other. So do you want something that's very traditional, or do you want something very kind of unique? One other note though too is, you know, it's probably hard to pick it up here. The Monster is closer to 41 mil, so the Sumo is a bigger watch, and that may be a little bit of a play for you too. Some people have a hard time accommodating a 44 millimeter timepiece, and so just by that alone, the Sumo may be a better, or the Monster may be a better choice for you. Also, too, you're kind of picking up that, you know, here you have a traditional bezel insert in the blue matching the dial. The Monster, it's actually etched into the stainless steel bezel too. So again, just very different takes on dive watches. And so, yeah, I mean, you know, function for function, guys, these watches they do the same job. They have similar movements, you know, same depth rating, but, you know, same clasp, but they're just such different personalities. And it all depends on what you're looking for. You know, the Monster is something very special in terms of aesthetics. You're not going to find it anywhere else, really, and it has a day of the week. You know, the Sumo is a great take on a traditional dive watch, and for a lot of people, this is going to be the watch that they prefer. And it's a lot of watch for the money. Now, personally, though, I like the Sumo a lot, and I wear it occasionally, but the Monster just does it for me. And I've said it a million times, and I'll say it a million times more. You know I just told you guys on my Panerai review that my Panerai is my current favorite watch. And I would say that that's true as a dress watch. I would say as dive watches go, though, the Monster is still where it's at for me. More than my Seamaster or the Breitlings or the Omegas that I've had, or even the Rolex Sub that I used to have. This is my favorite dive watch. There's something about it in hand that just feels right. And I just think the value and the specialness of this watch is just something that doesn't translate to other brands. It just has that X factor to me that I can't explain. So hope you guys found this helpful. Sort of a long rant ramble here going on, but yeah, I mean, they're two very similar watches that just have totally different personalities. One thing too, they both do have push pins here, or excuse me, holes in the case so you can easily remove these bracelets, but they're legends, and you know, you really can't go wrong. They're two awesome pieces. So thanks again, guys, for joining me on this. Let's go ahead and let's jump back. All right, guys, thank you so much again for tuning in and for watching that with me. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you guys found this a little bit more informational and helpful. As always, let me know what you guys think in the comment section down below. And yeah, let me know what you think. Do you guys prefer one or the other? You know, owning them both, I like them both, but to me, the Monster has my heart. I still love the Monster, and I'm always going to own it, and I could never part with it. I just said the same thing twice in two different ways. I'm good at that, aren't I? I like to talk, don't I? But yeah, I love the Monster, but they're both great pieces, and they both speak to very different audiences, and I think, you know, ideally you'd probably own one of each, but, you know, I'm sure one's going to appeal to you more than the other. And of course, there's other ones out there. You can look at the SKX, you can look at the Samurai, you can look at, I mean, there's so many great, the Marine Master, if you got that kind of money. So many options out there, but two wonderful picks, two classics within the Seiko range, and you really can't go wrong. So let's say, guys, thanks so much for tuning in. I really am thankful for you guys, really appreciate it. I know I haven't really been around in social media as much anymore lately. I appreciate you guys being respectful of that. My personal life has just kind of been really crazy lately, and I'm trying to get through some stuff and fix some things. So thank you guys for being patient with me, for not getting upset if I don't get back to you on messages and comments. It's just, my life's been chaos. But I appreciate the support, and you know, I hope to catch you guys in the next video. So if you haven't already, please subscribe somewhere around me, and I hope you guys are having an awesome day, and I'll see you all really soon. Take care.